So I think the order actually got stuffed up, and I was meant to go before Helen, and now I know why. Tough act to follow. Helen definitely downplayed, I guess, what the message, the lessons she can give you, but actually, has an amazing career and a great story to tell. I'm being 100% honest when I say I don't. Who is younger than 28? Yeah. So I'm 28. So everyone here's probably got a lot more experience than me. So I guess for me, when I thought about this, my career or success, or such as it is probably very much linked to, I guess, the success of Uber, and probably that defining feature definitely now, and I think possibly moving forward is working in a business like that. So that's probably more interesting than me talking about what I've done or who I am. Is talking about, I guess, what the impact is of being in a business that moves at that speed. To put in context, I joined Uber in April last year in Melbourne, just before we launched UberX. The business in Melbourne is probably about 45 times bigger than it was when I started in April last year. So a business that grows at that rate obviously just creates opportunities for whoever's there. So start to think about, well, what are those things that I guess define Uber's success, and then link that back to anything that I guess I could share on my career. And there are three sort of things that I came to, and the first one is just timing, how important timing is. The second one is, I guess, that uneasiness with settling, just never settling. And then the third is just focus on what really matters. And I think some of the message has probably been reflected by others here tonight. So I guess if I think about timing, when you think about the advent of Uber, you need the smartphone to exist. So the smartphone gets invented, and then that creates the conditions for a product like Uber to be born. And then you have, credit crunch, global financial crisis. It sort of really changes the economy, changes employment, workplaces, all that sort of thing. And so you can kind of create that conditions where people are starting to think, well, hang on, what are different ways of doing things? Because possibly what we're doing in the past hasn't worked. And so you add them together, and Uber can come to life. For me, when I think about timing, I worked in consulting. When I started my career as a graduate, it's actually up in Brisbane, business was booming, and got lots of opportunity. There just wasn't enough people, got to work way above my pay grade. As a result, my career advanced really quickly. Then I transferred down to Melbourne. Market had tanked, wasn't as much work. Everyone's fighting over less work. And as a result, you kind of stagnate. So when I think about, and that's not through me not trying or me not being capable or anything else, it's just where you land. So then when I think about the timing of Uber, as I said, I've got my Uber story. I regularly, people tell me theirs, so I'll bore you with mine quickly. I'd heard about Uber probably 2013. I was in San Francisco. I was with a mate. I said, we're going to try this thing to get a lift. We're down, I don't know if anyone knows San Francisco, down in Embarcadero there, Saturday morning, very busy traffic this way. Order the Uber. Uber's coming from kind of a couple of blocks sort of in that direction. See on the phone that, if he comes down, he'll have to drive up, do a U-turn. It'll take 15 minutes. Press the button, call him, say, hey, meet me across the road. This is my first time, so I'm working it out as I go. We walk across the road, get in, clean Prius, offers me water. Nice, young, hipster-looking dude. Had a good chat. Get to the end of the ride. My mate's in the back. He didn't know what Uber was, so he didn't know what was going on. And we get out of the car, no money changes hands. I'd been in the front, he'd been in the back. And I turn around and he looked at me, this like stunned expression, what just happened? The future. So I think for me, then I came back, I followed Uber, joined when there was a few people in Melbourne, joined before UberX launched in Melbourne. Just, a lot of those, you think about the chances of all that happening. The timing there was great. Had I joined at the same time in the US, where the growth had already, it's grown astronomically since then, but much more established, then my career opportunities wouldn't have been the same. So for me, there's just a lot of, I had to know about Uber and be keen to follow it and all the above, but there is that element of timing, which, was really fortunate for me. The second one, that never settling thing, it's not, I don't think, people always tell you, you got to bust your ass and work a million hours and all that. So it's not that I would say in terms of never settling. It's just that being uneasy sort of with the status quo and kind of always thinking about, well, how do we improve? How do we just edge a little bit forward? And so I never made any rash decisions in my career or anything like that, but absolutely, thought about things and wasn't happy with where I was. And I probably made about, 3 or 4 decisions. I studied law and I worked out before I started practicing that it was a bad idea. Went into consulting because I was like, well, at least it sort of expands my opportunities. That kind of decision, leaving Brisbane, coming to Melbourne, I left consulting, actually went and opened a restaurant with my brother, still ticking along nicely. That combination of experience is when I went to apply for the job at Uber. They said, oh, well, consulting, okay, process, analytical, all that sort of thing. You've opened a restaurant, you're entrepreneurial, that's sort of what we look for. It kind of not settling, I guess, actually kind of led me towards Uber. And when I think about what we do every day there, is just do not settle at all. Just constantly looking, how do we turn the wheel a little bit? Small changes, what impact can that have? And it's not necessary. It's not sexy stuff we do or anything like that. It's just if I change the wording on this bit of comms, will it result in X percentage more drivers coming through the door, and what impact will that have on growth? Just basic stuff. So that not settling, I think, such as it has helped me, but definitely it's, I think, a massive driver for any business, and finding people who aren't willing to settle to work with you. That's definitely huge for me. The third one, just focus on what matters. I think both Cole and Helen kind of mentioned this. It like politics or getting caught up in any of the other stuff. I think the good thing about Uber, and plenty of companies, definitely, probably I'm sure Etsy, Cotton On, I'm sure many of you here as well. It's kind of why you come to events like this, is that you try to not sweat the small stuff, don't get caught up in the little things. But then when you think about your business, you say, well, okay, what is actually going to drive the outcome that we need? So Uber's mission is to make transport as reliable as running water, for everyone, everywhere. That's sort of the lofty ambition, and it sounds pretty lofty. But when you actually dial that down into what can we do as an operations team here in Melbourne, it's build supply. Just means get drivers onboarded onto the system, onto the road. It's as simple as that. And once we create that system, we know that the technology is there and the reliability and the price is such that people will use it. So removing all that noise, not having lots of meetings and lots of other projects, and just dialing in on what you need to do. I guess for me in my role at Uber, and I think probably our team here in Melbourne's had a lot of success relative to some of our other peers in other cities, just by being super, super focused on that. And then I guess I think what that means is that sometimes you make decisions to do things which aren't as interesting. The example I always give is when an Uber city starts, you have a 3-person team, and that 3-person team does everything. And that includes customer support. So up until only a few months ago, the team in Melbourne handled every single email. And I don't know if anyone here has ever emailed Uber after a trip because you didn't like the route or its cancellation. It went to one of the team of a handful of people in Melbourne, and they would respond to you. So when I first started last year, I worked on the driver side. So obviously we get emails and tickets from drivers. There was a period of a couple of months there where, in addition to onboarding drivers, paying drivers, communicating with drivers, all the sort of stuff I have to do, I responded to about 500 tickets or driver emails a week. So basically just customer support. And my total count now, I think, is 20,000 of support requests that I've handled. So that was the most important thing to do at that time to build the business. Not glamorous at all, but that's what we had to do. And then I guess the results or whatever come later. So as I said, not huge amounts of wealth of experience to offer too much on, but definitely I think for me it is about ability and hard work and networking and all the above. But realistically, if you reduce it down to those three things, find the opportunities and get there at the right time, obviously, and that involves a bit of luck. Keep just turning the wheel, not settling. And then finally, as I say, just remove everything else, focus on what you can do. And hopefully, all of your businesses, and I'm sure they will be super successful. So thanks very much. Yes.
Thank you very much.